So teacher the Tabeshi said, you couldn't use the Shema said and the Sabbath.
Let me remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation or altruistic mind, seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood for the sake of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrite bodhicitta motivation, we should participate in this discourse.
That shouldn't be Jibani Namja Timoma Shebase. Chizan Drama Ganga Jibani Shield, Tenjo Shedam and Down to Zero Day.
So where we left off in this text, those of you who have this English translation of the text, we are between page 148 and 149, and so we will look at what we call some of the unique presentations of Prasangika, Madhyamika, the highest Buddhist schools of thought.
Lamkandi Sheda Pongzu Los Tambonde Dangzini Juni Karu Zobala Tirani Medin de Ranjiba Kanza Dangzini Jode Shida Shida Shela Tenjo and the Dangzini Nujab so Nujab de Joko the Shay Dangzini Nujab de Jobe Nejang Gaze Daniela Tara maybe maybe take Kabe Damena Tara Mela Teacher Danzini Yang Tara Jes Chever Mundebe Chever Mundebe Kanzak Danzi Nyuja impatient, she danzi, Nyuja ingover, Kazak danzi, Nyuja impatient, she Nyuja ingover, Shedo. Tia Pumba de Manzibe, she danzi, Nyuja in the thing, you motion Maribai. She the Pumba de made the dobby, Ribai, get them with each other. Daisy she some she troubles, but it's just on Dubaka shit of you to get a show. This is the thing you corner the shit of you to young child. Mida here, 2 months here. That to my in the Ranji Machine, Che does it. That Ranji Machine that you do the you can shake that the Kazatan Chiva Mrs. King Marway. That is some of the Rosie with the tree dancing till the Kazata Nishi or Kazata didn't get a zero with one. Neither the Shatasha, she dances, shaking Chesdaga with Mega Shaggy or the Mega Kashum. That the Tejo Castle and Dantini Miramis. She should and Kazata. She does the Sharma, Gaza, Choya Marchesa, Kazada, she does Nika in New Jersey. And she did in the Shiva my child is what that is.
So Geshe read from the bottom of page 148 under the caption, how the apprehension of true existence is presented as an afflictive obscuration, to the top of page 149. And as Geshe explained, that Prasangika Madhyamika school, the highest Buddhist school of thought, has a very exclusive or unique presentation with regard to the two types of mental obscurations, or chimney in Tibetan. And according to Prasangikas, both grasping at the self of a person and grasping at the self of phenomena are afflictive obscuration or delusive obscuration, kleshya, nyundip in Tibetan. Okay? Whereas in other Buddhist schools of thought, Savatandika Madhyamika school, the other sub-school of the middle way, and Chitta Martins on the mind-only school, so their assertions of the true selflessnesses are very different. In their school, selflessness of a person refers to the selflessness of a self-sufficient and substantially existent person. Okay? So grasping at such a self of a person is an afflictive obscuration or nyundip, whereas grasping at the self of phenomena is not afflictive obscuration, it is a cognitive obscuration. And so they do make difference in terms of the two selflessnesses, whereas Prasangika Madhyamika say that the two selflessnesses are qualitatively same. There's no difference. The only difference is the basis upon which selflessness is established or posited on. So when we take a person as the basis, then the selfness of a person is established. When we take a phenomenon or phenomena as the basis, then the selflessness phenomenon is established. But as selflessnesses, they are exactly the same thing. There is no difference in terms of one being coarse and one being subtle. They are qualitatively the same. Only the difference is in the basis, right? Whereas in other Buddhist schools of thought, as we said, Savatandika Madhyamika and mind-only school, the two selflessnesses are not same, right? They are different in terms of, qualitatively different, if you will.
어디 제가 다다 그 미라 가르쳐는 롱주버서 생서서 가사다지 용접시 최다지의 시르셔고 어디 대산에 다다 텐주로 최전산은 무슨 가자 첩지 버선사 아니 가사다지 최대인가 가서 용접시고 어디 투마요 시바서 드르르다 현실다 시르니 남야 롱주버서 생서서 요르바 이따 텐주 시르위나 박사서 그 동으로 되면 시방원이 전화지 뭐 하고 말세요. 그래서 dünyaya 또 많이 왔어요. 어디다.
Just to kind of recapitulate what we talked about. So in the Buddhist schools of thought, right, Savatandika Madhyamika school, and so in the Savatandika Madhyamika school and the Chitta Martin school, mind-only school, they also assert two selflessnesses, two types of mental obscuration, right, afflictive obscuration, cognitive obscuration, but their presentations are very different. Right, that selfless, grasping at the self of a person, the kind of self is self-sufficient and substantially existent self. So grasping at that kind of a self of a person is afflictive obscuration or nyundip in Tibetan. Whereas grasping at the self of phenomena is cognitive obscuration or shidip, and they are qualitatively different, right? But Prasangika says no. the two selflessnesses are exactly the same thing. Qualitatively, there's no difference. The only difference is the basis upon which each of them is established. So if you take a person as the basis and establish selflessness, that is the selflessness of a person. Okay? And grasping at the self of a person and the grasping at the self of phenomena are both afflictive obscurations. But then what is cognitive obscuration for them? They said cognitive obscuration is not a cognition, it's the imprints of the graspings, the pakcha in Tibetan, the latencies, the predispositions, the imprints, if you will, right? All those are the same term, we try to use it.
What did it that? Because two maybe because she don't really care say yoga did it. Because she do. They are Pumbo de Banzembe, she does the new day in the emoji married by MB, she the Pumbo de Medidobi. Require he got them to show should be the she dribble with me. Tin emoji married by Muzinzilla. Tommy Cushon saw ne Lendel Tam Tekonaya the Mommy. Simju Maribat la del Marikba, the del dredging. Teda Jigdas social diara. Chair Chakbas Osmiki Lobo Gashike Kazara. Zed the Jigdani, Yumuji Mariba, Shedo. Then they may. Tobe, require you to show the Dela, Nimber Chube, require the Casunda. Till it came out on Mishike. Rigbata, Zindan was Gavish. Go ahead, consult the shoe, the Brava Zebe, the Numujengi, Numujengi Mariba, Chobos, or there's that quote. Usually was on the Susan Sharma, Zindaji was on the and it couldn't you go see the Hazada Nimuji Mariba, Pilgrims, or this was that, or Jimmy. Show them the Hazada in Tara, you're in the Hazada in University. Show them the Shira. So the Gaza Chava Shaza. The Tenyu Gaza Shiva Shaza Ko Chava Chago Yamarava. So the Kochikwa Gazette of the Shago.
So Geshe read the middle part of the page 149 there. And so why that difference in standpoints between Prasangika Madhyamika school and Savatantika and mind-only Chittamartin schools of thought? Savatantika Madhyamikans and Chittamartin's mind-only school, because they assert that the two selflessnesses are qualitatively different, right? And also the grasping at the two selves are qualitatively different. One is coarse and one is subtle, isn't it? So because of that, grasping at the self of a person, that self is self-sufficient and substantially existent self of a person, is afflictive obscuration or nyundip. That is the coarse level one. Whereas grasping at the self of phenomena is cognitive obscuration, because that grasping is a subtle one, isn't it? So the selflessness of phenomena is different than the selflessness of a person. So that's why they make those distinctions. But Prasangika says no, both graspings are exactly the same thing. Okay? If you look at how both graspings are grasping at their objects, the true selves, then they both are, how should I say, apprehending the selves to be truly existent, isn't it? Grasping at the self of a person sees the self of a person to be truly existent. Grasping at the self of phenomena perceives the aggregates to be truly existent. So in terms of how they see the referent objects, exactly the same thing. And so therefore, both graspings are afflictive obscurations or nudib. There is no difference of subtlety and coarseness here, And for them, cognitive obscuration is the predispositions or the imprints of these graspings, right? That's more subtle thing. Okay? So that's why we have those philosophical, perspective differences. So Geshe started to give a little explanation of the middle part on page 149. So you find the names of the two brothers, Asanga and Vasubandhu, invoked there. As Geshe explained, that in Buddhism, we talk about ignorance or avidya, marikpa, pertaining to law of cause and effect, like lendel among the marikpa. Then we have ignorance pertaining to the ontological reality status of phenomena, that is the ultimate nature of phenomena. So we have two types of ignorance here, and Asanga and Vasubandhu talk about that as well. According to the Prasangika's unique perspective is this, that ignorance pertaining to the reality ontological status of phenomena is not simply lack of, how should I say, awareness of that reality, or it is not simply the absence of the, what you called, we call wisdom. Here they call gnosis, awareness of the reality. This ignorance is actually perceiving the reality in a distorted way, right? It's not simply absence of something or the lack of that gnosis, because this ignorance is twisted sort of reality and seeing it distortedly, So that's why that realizing the selflessness, emptiness, that gnosis of the wisdom, it can cut through that ignorance, right? That's what the Prasangikas are, saying.
어디 말을 채워도 다 유모지 말을 써야 돼. 두지 채워 되리자. 대답이 된지 유모지 말을 봐 이바다. 대신 여러 가지 많이다. 다사 내가 상승하지 방발 배된다 소화해듯 중절에 대 니들 상계다小주선 봐 유모지 말을 봐 방바. 두지 수녀라서비 수녀라 예바니다 자와 세바나네 주메라시 이게 덴반멘데 덴반이 멘데 덴발로베 뭐벌 덴발 뭐벌 hit로마 메베시 셰다 시잡파요 빨리 시잡파 시베 사본남시데 유름 대줄 유르다베도는 시베 사본가 봐주스 어디 거기다 거를 말을 봐셔다 다음에 또 와서 내 시베 사본가도 대바들레니 니모바토고 말이스 니모바와 다지 방고리 다지 마바와 니모바야 말이스 어다 뜻이거다.
So at the bottom of page 149 and top of page 150, where there is Aryadeva's 400 stanzas is quoted, Chadukshida. As Geshe explained that according to Prasangika's, grasping at true existence is an afflictive ignorance or yomonchingi maripa in Tibetan. And so that needs to be uprooted by, the arahats of the Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas, all hearers and solitary realizers, as well as bodhisattvas, And so in the 400 stanzas of Aryadeva, as Geshe explained, that the root cause of samsara is ignorance, right? And so if that ignorance is uprooted, then all other delusions will be uprooted and we can be free from samsara. If that ignorance is intact, then we cannot be free from delusions, right? Because other delusions cannot be eradicated or uprooted. And so to uproot the ignorance, the root cause of samsara, so one has to realize selflessness or emptiness.
시베 사원남시도 유는테지를 유르다메도 시베 사원가 봐주스 거기 유르 방발라 담에도 그래야 돼요. 되게 그래서 저 이제 송바는 들마세 이제 본보지 그래서 들마세 시베 사원은 이름이 시에가마다 송이 들면서 덴지 디 시베 사원이 봐도 데메토에 딘도바양 셰도스 어디 덴지데 데메마다 보디 도도 마리스 어디 셰샤지 거기다 대달 송바데스 파파 yap세지 셰바 다바데 돈이 두지발 교당 제네 제고는 야다번을 떠박고 대는 떠배 마직송 teleyana 중이죠 야다 통질 무도마 리히 말이 미시미 리히 말이 미시바 Tene marin geva gaba yi. Teji era junin ga ji. Yujele kebe singobo na yada wata de zeba zeba. Sibe sabu di chebe marin pa shi. Denzi te rangi. Rinja shi dagdi da. Kansa dagzi. Kansa dagzi da. Kansa demban zemba marin so. Yana junin juwa da rangxin. Maybe doing he Mariba Gaji, Tere, Hingaba Song Sauce, or Tere, that Hoje, the Zarzars, that Dinzi the Koya Zaris, or Dinzima Papa didn't call by Mari, and the Koapa and the Demeto, or Tonara Tere.
So Geshe read the page 150, and in essence, as Geshe explained, we have quote from Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas of emptinesses. So all of these, Aryadeva's 400 stanzas, Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas of emptiness, they're all telling us that, if we want to be out of samsara or abandon samsara or to be free from samsara, we must uproot or get rid of the root cause, which is the ignorance. To uproot it, we must realize selflessness or emptiness, right? Because that's the only, antidote that can cut through that, ignorance.
What did what did she Papa Yasi, Shiva Damatis, or that they didn't Marubasha, the Papa Yasi, how is the Papa Luchado? I had the Azura. Because Shiva Tambates, Papa Yasi Gomaris, they were doing do but only do Papa Luchado. You get a jiggle Yazaba the Tobaga, tell him, Tobe Maru Sum. You tell the Tobe Maru Sum. Tell you that you Yanda Tons in Domba. Lishi Maru Mijun de Mijua. Tell the Maru Gaba is. Today you're not doing God. You get give it over no young. Young Taba the Debazibe, Civil Tawachube, Maru Bali, dancing, Maru Par dancing. Then this is the younger and just show you down the Kaza down the that's the Mariba so you're not doing usual. Rashi maybe don't you hear me, Mariba guarding. There is nothing about song sauce, or they, because Papa Yasi Gomari said that she never had that is the demand. Just Padan Dawa shares or Padan Dawa share, then go to the Ayada to Gomaris, or this or that.
So, as Geshe explained, that what Aryadeva, who is the main disciple of Arya Nagarjuna, stated in his 400 verses, Chadukshedak, and what Chandrakirti has stated in his commentary, they are all converse with Arya Nagarjuna has stated in 70 Emptinesses and other works. And so grasping at true existence is the root ignorance, right? And both spiritual father and son agree with that, meaning spiritual father is Nagarjuna and the son is Aryadeva, right? They agree with that. So that is the what called the first dependent link of the 12 links of interdependent originations.
What did you Zawajo to set of that the do is in a Debe Madova in Tava Tansiva Kaya Toy. You see, which Debe told is that do you have to take it? The Roji visited and the Dash Matava Demi Togo Yamarva.
No.
So that the Tumu Tenju Tumu might be Chesu to Shadow or things.
Yes. So the main thesis, that's being established and proved through all of this, statement is that from Prasangika point of view, in order to be free from samsara, one must realize the emptiness of true existence. There is no other way around it, and that's where it stops, right? If you want to be free from samsara, you must realize emptiness of true existence. Whereas other Buddhist schools of thought, they may not agree with that. As we said, Sevatantra Madhyamikans would say that in order to be an arahat, means to be free from samsara, they don't say that you have to realize emptiness of true existence. You just need to realize selflessness.
The lesson in a coaches, Kizan Shesa, there's a Nimuza, Nimuda, Led Nimunia, and Jawala, Karibe, Tunu shares, and Nimushu shares. Nimu in the lemon, less of a sassoris. And the lady, the new woman, the lady, Jibuto, his get George, do over. So the Dutch of a Manga Lesa, Lesa, the Mamayardi. Teacher Nami, the mummy was shy or kept songs to do, draw the thing.
So as Geshe explained, that when we look within the chain of 12 interdependent links or the originations, the first one starts with ignorance or avidya. And according to Prasangikas, that avidya, ignorance, is grasping at true existence, isn't it? So as long as that ignorance exists, there is going to be karmic formation, the second dependent link, isn't it? If you create karmas, then karmas are going to produce their results, isn't it? This is how we are reborn in samsara, and then all other chains follow up, right? So starting with the first one. And so if you don't want to be in samsara, we have to break this chain, so to speak. And the way to break this chain is to break it from the beginning, just knock out the ignorance, right? Then all other chains will be disrupted. So as Krishna said, of the karmas and afflictive emotions, lay and nyumong in Tibetan, for rebirths in samsara, delusions are primary, isn't it? As long as we have delusions, we will accumulate karmas. But if we have no delusions, we may have remnants of karmas, as we talked about this last time, that some arahats have what we call indefinite karmas, tons of them. It's just like you got freebies now. These karmas cannot ripen anymore, so these are like, he didn't say that, okay, the freebie karmas, I call it. So they do not fruition, So that in that sense, the delusions are the primary cause of rebirth in samsara.
What did it hurt? Yina jing zhuang zang. Rangxi mebe, dongyi xibe mariban gajing. Tile xin, tile xin gaba song so. Mariban gasa na, en ko zawa zhu gasa de, nimu sheda de, jibu jidu wa marwa. Tisi wa xe. Gaba song so, rixia bua tuzi bayang. Karve ne hina she so je de ji me de karve ne hina nyumu ju sema zema song so se she denzi me de sa denzi de yo na ene 可是有些没事，你们我现在讲过的是我的，你你们注意什么就是说，你我的注意心中的时候，现在都现在新加坡乱些些的，怎么过来那就的，其实你们他们就怎么什么就，这人说通话那怎么什么就，现你们这。你们现在能让出生些让出生些男生些，电子的，电子的当这样就把当，电子人是没通，马上把都把送说是，兄弟，你把他的这边是，那感谢连呢，那玩就是。现在也电子你们用这个啥，对吧？是说的老公男生这些，旁边过吧，了，前边了是，前面把送了，我们这些人他们没。把送把也讲电子的，他把怕就是电子你这他们龙兴呀忙我，这电子的可以找，也那就是你们他们马上把送把那做手机就也的，光把用送锁是，这个。电子上这个科学家连这样的地方的，可是里面没到个是就让伢子嘛，就是怕是就电子样的，电子这个个现在那科学家这也说嘛是吧？现在怕是说嘛意思？里面没到个是就是这意思的。
啊，怕被电子个科学家지금 해 버려.
나.
怕被电子个科学家지금 말했어.
怕是电子上个科学家말했어.
아, 네. So Geshe read from the bottom page 150 to the top of page 151, and there's a quote from what called 60 stanzas on reasoning, in Tibetan, and so as Geshe started to explain here, that grasping at true existence, Tenzin in Tibetan, is the root afflicted emotion. As long as there, all other affliction emotions come out of it, rise from it. And so if we want to be free from all delusions, we have to uproot the very root, which is the grasping at true existence. And for that, we must realize the emptiness of true existence. And so here, when we say that grasping at true existence is root of samsara, this is applied to the ordinary sentient beings, isn't it? Not for the Aryas. Aryas may have grasping at true existence, but that does not become a cause to be in samsara. For ordinary beings, that grasping does become. And then there's another one, just for just my own sort of footnote clarification. There is a reference to the mikde, intentional object, right, something like that. So I wouldn't translate it that way. There is no intentionality here. It's more like the referent object of grasping, so it is the focus. Mikde is the focus or the reference point. There is no sense of intentionality attributed here. I just want to clarify that in footnote. So two translators are differing here, how we translate this.
Shungde mikbatani chewe sim, gashilane nevanjur, shesoji yang, dendi nyungda de sa tembe, sho de lobon songje, pape gomba de se la, cheba me va song la, ngubu di se la taba me, ba song ba jang, Tenzin de Tava Tava Hadji, Tendo, Tenzin de Yundo Zembe, Long Shenya Mango, Tide Tenzin, Guzi, Koyazawa, Taya Junji Maribaiti, Yema Sumba, ne? Su Soji Juji Tele Gonji, Gonji, Juji Tela. Kogwa song so did up no more songs out there danger. You see, Shawala, she Sanji Janshi, daughter was some day, Papa Gomashi, what is Susan.
So this is explanation pertaining to the last paragraph on top of page 151, and so grasping at true existence, or Tenzin in Tibetan, is primary obstacle or obscuration to liberation or nirvana, and so that's why it is regarded as afflictive obscuration or nyundip, delusive obscuration. And so we have seen some of the citations to support that, and then it's mentioned that there are many other texts that would establish the same point there. So when we talk about grasping at true existence as the root of samsara, of course it applies to the ordinary sentient beings, not to the Arya beings, who may have that grasping. The three masters agree with this. The three masters are Shantideva, and Buddhapalita, and Chandrakirti.
What the Nipan is that Yumushi Maribas, Josu Mendawe, Yumushi Josu Yang, Ranju saw the Menda this day that Yumushi Mariba, the Muzi Menda is in Tibetan, Yumushan that shook the bar, Terror, the Menda Yunguris, what this was that. There, Karsa, the somebody two also, you bought the new change, Mariba Josu Menda on the Yumushan of Josu, Josu and Ranjiba saw the Menda is that Yumushi, Thomas Mariba, women's eyes, and Yumushan Mariba, women's jewelry, so there were. There is concern, I get the Tenzin, the tea chamber. Sanyo the new double, Mumba in the Sheva, Tumudu, Chavi, Yumu, Maru, Rakbaretam. Kanzarang sing towards Zembe, down, Tiatambe, Sivaso, Lung de Konala, Chavi, Yumuba, Yumu, Chawa Rayang, Jogo, Shinju, Yumuso, Madra Base, Mariba, Sivaso. Charge Jovan, David, Ransin, Mishivada. Then you do the Jovan, or tell that, so you know that you must say, Marvel charge the Nimotion that child is that Sayako, you know the child joins, and they shook the ten in the quarter with the Koyas, the Matrashina. Tandaya, you do the Kanzara, the Mariba take good land in less than the car could be Rakpashia. That the tell you as in the Kazakh that shit of Shadi, Kasadi Kazakh and Sweet, the Tara may shout the Kuninga, then ya call Kodu, she don't see the dress, she's a Mendado, you had to teach so lowly, I the car could remember to Mendao. Somebody must some shower. Sidama Dodi Simza Mother on Jiba, 10 years he don't do she, some shower.
So now we are in the middle of page 151, and subpoint 2 reads how each of the two obscurations is identified, and Geshe later read the first paragraph from there, and the explanation Geshe has given here is that Prasangika's presentation of what is afflictive ignorance and other Buddhist schools of presentation may be different, right? Because when the root ignorance is explained differently, then other delusions arising from it may also differ as well. And so as a matter of fact, Geshe says that we may, maybe look at what is regarded as the root of samsara from three different viewpoint. So one would be how do the Vibhashikas or Sautrantikas identify the root of samsara, right? Basically, they're going to say that it is grasping at the self-sufficient and subsistentially existent self of a person, isn't it? Then we may look at the root of samsara from Savatantika and Chitta-Martin point of view, mind-only school. And then we have what is the root of samsara from Prasangika point of view. So we could have three different perspectives with regard to what is regarded as a root of samsara.
Any shidder, she of my chow, she's the mirror lane, around you, because I tell you, and you know, mirror show race, or this. Or they tell you, but the papa go little go by him, but they did Lobo Kasaji and the art about the short house of Ganga, Goma Chiki, or this was that.
So what is unique to the Prasangika school of thought is that they do not accept anything that exists intrinsically in and of itself, isn't it? Whereas in other schools, they do accept intrinsic reality. So that is very unique to the Prasangika school, and it's from that point of view they are presenting what is the afflictive ignorance, if you will. So that, what's presented in the Prasangika, it actually represents the viewpoint of Arya Nagarjuna, and that has been substantiated by the works of Bodhisattva Shantideva, Buddhapalita, and Chandrakirti.
Tishi Kansara is the lawyer Trevor Kansara than the Mijojin. Shakso, Nimu, Nanayan, Titter Kansara than the Gitamba, the Chair Yumushin, Mijo or she Mijoko, that did it, Raju Mijika. Mijoko. Lo, there's a Sivaso la Tarani Govade. Shungder said you Jemaya. She saw the saw tendo. There Jimmy saying so you. So don't do the picture door shin. So Tabataba Padu Joshi Jackson David Devadi, New Jersey saying he started those other things or that. In the Gunda, the Lingy Niles Gundas and the Dude Lane, Jim, the Gundash. That's social trauma is to regular you get the Dude Mario, Lingy said, or did that Dudama to hear the Dude Leva, remember the Dude Mario in your race. Dude, you live on the sure. Yumba, Sungde da Java, TJB, Sawan Karum, good devati. Yunda Gunda is that. Tonda is or that. To that be, you didn't was just Tana Samadani, and the any Kashu, any you but to the Yumukunda series. Or did some of the Mazakora Gorahi, Tawakon, Raja, you are the Nimu Lenji Sigris. Oh, this was Kuda Lenji le Tubdet Leve on the Tumu, you but soon then the Jeva the Jeve, Samo Kongi, Dua, the Yunda, Yukunda, Jitini, was that Tubdet Tea Koran, Jeva, Tea sounds that Tubdet Jevas. Today, may have a charter that Gagajili with the Tubdet Malivas, but you see. Samo Karu, Dua, the Yunda, Lenji, Tini doors. Tini the Rayan, Munjurdama, Samoji, Chani, Yedos, Munjus the Kolo, Shibangoshe, that Samos the call Dibangoni, Rayor, Benjaminga Rayor, what is it? Pumbo Yedos, Pumbo dance, saying Mudumba Kansa and Yetebe, the Bada. He gave Numba, Sunda Jeva, Dang. To that way, Dang Zidang. He gave it Transiso. Numus, Sunda Jeva Nami, Nuda Dus, Nuda Kunda, Nuda Kunda. Someone Nuda Kunda, Munjuada. Ti Darkin Shiji. Ti Drakishiji, Numu Pasana, Nuda Kunda, Savonji, Showers. But the Nuvago, the New Kunda Savon Shashe, Corolo was Jones, was Kiani Kasa. She doesn't know. Kaza the corazon most because doors. Copala diva because the doors. What is it?
So Geshe read from the bottom page 151 to page 152 and gave a little bit of explanation here. As we said earlier, that one of the things unique to Prasangika Madhyamika school is that there is no such thing as intrinsic reality. Nothing exists intrinsically, but that's not the case with other Buddhist schools of thought, because they do believe in intrinsic existence. And so for them, they accept that self of a person is intrinsically existent. So grasping at such intrinsic self is not a grasping at the self of a person, right, in their viewpoint, because they accept intrinsic reality. So as Geshe explained, so what is the definition of afflictive obscuration or nyuntip in Tibetan, right, the delusion, if you will. So it is defined as primarily that which obstructs you from attaining liberation. Such an obscuration is called afflictive obscuration, right? An obscuration that primarily or mainly hinders, obstructs you from attaining nirvana is delusive obscuration or nyuntip. And so it can take two forms. So one is what we call the lenje, innately developed affliction, which is very natural. And the other is called imputed here. I often translate as intellectual one, right? Imputed affliction. And so how do we differentiate between innate and imputed one? Imputed one is based upon philosophical principles or systems, isn't it? If you subscribe to any philosophical system or tenet, and then believe in certain things, so the delusions, right, that are supported by certain philosophical sort of standpoint, we call it imputed, or I like to call it intellectual delusions. And that only exists in the people who subscribe to different schools of thought, philosophy, isn't it? If somebody's clueless about philosophy, Geshe didn't say that, footnote, then we can't talk about that. Whereas innate delusion exists in the minds of all sentient beings, including the smallest insects, right? It is natural, right? You don't need a philosophy or education, anything. It's just there, so we differentiate. We said that afflictive observation can be innate form, lenje, or it can be imputed or intellectual form. And then also, we talk in terms of how delusion can be a manifest form. Manifest means when you have those delusion thoughts arising, right? Those are manifest one. And then there could also be in the form of a seed, sabun. Seed is in the sense of potential, right? The potentiality, potency, right? That is a seed, So we can talk about grasping at the self, in the form of manifest form or in the form of a seed, right? Yeah.
What is that? Do they live in the Mari in the Timukangalia, Lenjings, Kagunju, Shara, the Paza, Shani, your resort. The Codensis on the tower, the Banzidi Marwa. Kosauti Papa, you density, she will Juju Shashi, or the Paza go to the town, Paza go never shot. And Koshibe goes a Kojumu Guni, or tell ya, Jumuju, and someone never to Yini Shagres.
So delusions, they exist in two states, if you will. And so they are either in the form of sort of potentialities or potency, or they might give rise to the actual manifest delusive thoughts, as I did. If the thoughts are arising delusion, then we can see it, but if the thoughts are not there, it's more in the form of potencies, it exists. So delusion exists in two states, potency or the manifestation.
Sabong Chaos, Shazo the Sundaji, Yiki Devil, Numoji Yunda, Numo man also that this Numosa the Simon Shawamara. So this Sunday doesn't so correct. The Numoji was the Numo Maris or the Kaji, the taxi certificate. Numo the Simon Shawata. That Sunday in the same to the Numojian Rema, the Numo Maris, or the rest of the Shazo Karu, Sunday, Numojian, you marry by Ina, Numo Meno, Nunjo Gunda down, Chita Tongman Tongja, Casa, Nunjo Gunda down, Nunjo Tongman Tongjis, was it? Nunjo Gundas and Thomas and Hotel Tongjis. Nunja Lenye in the Gomos and Tonsi. Karza Tonjela, Nunja Lenye dance, Nunja Gomo Tonsia goes, or that, but she wasn't the Tosia. She did Jujun, Jubarangele, tell Mario Bazani, she's a used Javaina. Desires Baza Yavani. Luda Magajo at the young Hindi, Mariba the Desires of the Pazate, no matter the Sheva. Saya corner no Juji, Shendal and my no, Sheve, so attend the Mariba Baza Sheve. She didn't say this. The Paja so. She's so gay, saying them, Lunake, Juban, Rajaman, Dojage, Pajatan, Paja Angle, Luning, Judah Shomata, and she done the Paja Angle. Ngage, Ningli, Hera, Mamus, the Wars. Yigin Ningli, he's a use Jimmy, King with King she Debina. She didn't talk our Chamala Lomus, Cha Munga Jipu, Rangi, Ma, Jigday come. Was that Jenny, no Java, Mushi ring the dead, Mashiva, Sumatabu, or young shiver, Pausa Soji, Soji, Pausati, she's a use Jimmy, use a young Dandos, or did it that she's a use Jimmy, because the young two was out the data, so that you Munga put the in the Koran, Amar bed. Tone in the Judea Kawaja and Moshe Sin, Moshe has the same mother of race. But this is the Sanjay charge or you care, Shani. You thought about it, Mr. Go case or Tikayama. You thought about Chojo was such as the Jenny, and you thought about on the same mother of race. But it does sort of you. Some are Japadi so Sosaria, Tidegaya. Palani, no, yeah, Mamma is this way.
Taking Dikanamake, Numo, and this same rest, Wage. Numo, Sunday in a Numo Ingo Marisumbe.
Oh, you never read the Numo Marisu. You more the same in the charities.
Numo Sunday in a Casa, Nundi Mari.
You never rest.
Nundi rest are in Numo Maris.
You never Sunday, Shiva, each year. What is it? You more simply in the shower.
I don't know. So Geshe read from the bottom of page 152 to the middle of page 153. So as we said before that afflictive obscurations can be innate form, or it can be imputed form, or I call it intellectual form, right? And afflictive obscuration is defined as obscuration that primarily obstructs you from attaining, attaining nirvana or liberation. So the what called imputed afflictive afflictions, nyumong kuntak in Tibetan, or intellectual afflictions, I would like to call it that, are also referred to as the objects to be abandoned by the path of seeing, right? Objects to be abandoned by the path of seeing and imputed afflictions are synonyms, one and the same thing. Whereas innately developed afflictions or innate afflictions, right, are the objects of abandonment by the path of meditation, right? So that's another way of saying that. What are the innate delusions? These are the objects to be abandoned on the path of meditation. Okay? So these are different terminologies you talking about the same thing here. And then Geshe talks about how, Nyönmong, delusion or afflictive emotion, is technically defined as what called secondary mind or mental factor, simjung in Tibetan. Okay? But they also accompany other types of mind. For example, a primary mind might be accompanied by those things. So that primary mind is technically not a delusion. It can be delusive obscuration, but it's not a delusion. You see the subtle? I was double checking with him, right? What did I hear him? Because Geshe talked to the table, I don't hear him, so I have to get his attention to my side. So then there's also mention of here translated as, I think, negative state of mind or something. Oh, what is it? Right, a negative state, not a mind. It can be negative state of body or mind, right? So this, these are kind of a little subtle, and where the examples given are even when you are like Arhat. Sometimes your behavior is still a bit not proper. He has mentioned of an Arhat maybe jumping like a monkey. And why an Arhat would jump like a monkey is that is due to what they call a negative state of a body. Maybe it comes to the same thing. I would like to translate the Nengelen as negative impact rather than a state, but I don't know whether it makes any difference there or not. And so that negative impact can also relate to the mind, and the story of Mongoliana is recorded here, as Geshe said. Mongoliana, standing over there next to the Buddha, it has incredible clairvoyance power, right, to be able to see it. But then he wasn't able to figure out where his mom was, using his clairvoyance, because she was born at a very far off state of hell called luminous hell, and he couldn't figure it out. So only Buddha was able to tell where his mom was. So that's why I said, depending upon the different stages, even a highly realized kind of Mongoliana, his clairvoyance has certain limitations, right? It's not able to cover all the space, so to speak. It is good enough to a certain distance, but then beyond that, his clairvoyance is not reaching out.
Niru chamo toba la, rinshi inbe chane, maribashi, chegi, tina, minam zibe shiva inbe guso, yumuwaje mayi mariba, wuchi teba shene, jugba rangele, kanki semji ju, bakba shejin, goa shela, jeso, juba shiva tene, paksha te, Number Murtubada, Kombada, Sawada, Pajashi, Namjanso. Then the Sabami Legi Lamji Numo Boss Sinja Boss Sinja, Mindu the Rasanje, Pama Minuda. Dida, Dimar Medola Sova, said Sinja. Pumba the Nambula so Nala, did a cherry. You did trouble me by Shenu, he soon. She soon loaned you must have my body. Tea Paja Meva, Tea Paja Pamba Meva Tendo. You la Mars, Kuzo Navadobaka, then she said driven. She sung by young. Kozo never done Dinzi, Bajaji. She didn't be torn in us. That she don't like the Shiva using me. The Chinese do this, and the Marsha, she don't give Shiva messing the Raksha. So the teachers don't is. They got Jordi, Shiva hit a messing with that. When you Jana, she was doing, Shiva should have
So Geshe read the whole page from 153 to actually the 154, about 2 pages there. And so we are dealing with cognitive obscuration or shidip, right? And could it be a cognition or not, right? And some say it is a cognition, or it could be. Others say it's not. But I think the author here goes more with it is not. Whereas Jamyang Sheba would say, there is a cognitive obscuration that is a cognition. And so Geshe is going to stop there. There was a definition of the cognitive obscuration, which is an obscuration that primarily obstructs you from attaining omniscience or the omniscient wisdom. So that's called cognitive obscuration or shidip. So we will stop there and go to our Dharma friends on the Zoom and then come back. Give me a second. We don't have. Okay. Then we can have the mic here, and we can. Would anybody like to start off?
So my question is sort of loose. So the mind is not the brain. So I'm wondering, so how do the, if the mind has no form, how do it carry the imprints?
Okay.
You know, what kind of, how do possibly that something that has no form carry imprints?
Okay. The condition they did again, and same second delia, ani karsoro did work. Su yo marwage.
La,
Shebal ya su yo marwa semla. Same game, same sumer wage. Same second su yo marwage. Just a su maybe didn't over chiki paksa and this degal paksa and this shadow paksa and this kid go rest of the decision on NASA.
알레. 바자스도 그 세운디 상호당에 뭐샤지 세우고 소거로.
In the correct call, the Koran Su message can cause some things didn't tend to your again. Chocolate in the degal shana to your again. The Koran Su may not degal shard draws the condition to your again.
드디어 그것은 나사서 그가 매 통화 가야 말아. 지거라. 미시 두고 나고 저 가정 마시고라. 제가 나사 도도 소스 통화지가 말아.
Think it was commerce again. The gay young just can run.
그래서 이집에 가서 그 네바도 위에 소요가 가 말아. 시바도 소이도 시바 투시하라.
말말 되더라고요. 세바 코란을 수매자 수매저 디간 박자 간데 시작을 그게. 수매지 간라.
되게 박자 코란 소하고 말아 되지. 박자 코란 소는데 다 가야 말아.
박자 코란
수 말아.
수 말가 때 시베랑 신도 싫어.
어제 시바선 주어라. 시베 가서 샤샤서. 이제 시바라 로스야 말이 되다. 시바는 제대로 가지. 그 내가 좀 쉬어라. 될 박자서 우리가 그 꼬마지 그나 그 예와서 박으라 주자. 어디 되게 그 주에 상거 되게 레스거라.
So I think Geshe is saying that the yes, mind or consciousness is formless, but how imprints are deposited on the because imprints are also not form. They are the potency, and so yes, we think about all kinds of thoughts. These thoughts are leaving their imprint on the mind itself.
Even after death.
But
even after death.
The Shiba in any decal Paja Shadugores, the same gala. Mishiba in a same gala Paja Shadugores.
Mother Shiga, Pazadaco Collier. Could I young end to get some of Corina Lunga Tongo could do or to the Paza Shawarda?
I let the she got the Mashiba the Paza, she's on Paja Shaggy Yamar again.
She was some was a good never.
I think the imprints are deposited as we are wakeful, right? We think about whatever actions we do, right? Mental thinking or speech action or bodily action. So all of these actions are leaving their sort of a potency or the imprints on the mind. But when we die, of course, they carry those imprints, but we are not created yet.
So what form do they have on the mind?
They are not forms.
But then how can they have power?
But they are just in the nature of potency. Geshe was giving this example.
So what do you mean by potency?
Potentiality, how should I say?
How does it exist in the mind, that potency?
Nobody condition, that's something called nobody roba, never condition, never send a condition, never send condition like what is again.
Never send I mean, a chick said, don't say this way, this says that it says that today share is somebody. You must be just your da. This is inside knows. Tonaka Yamara.
It's like more like think in terms of impact. It's like, some of the people say that, oh, I'm not feeling well. I don't know what really made me feel that. Maybe it's something I ate the wrong food or something we didn't see. We cannot see it, but there's something impact. We feel it. So something like that. That's what Geshe was saying.
Something like that.
Yeah. Impact. Yeah.
So they have. So if the mind has no form, the imprints have no form.
What?
The mind has no form. The imprints have no form.
Yes. No form. They both have no form. Yes.
Then how can they carry the potencies to the next life if they have no form?
Right. So we this go the number 7 le su yo ma bhagza le su yo ma re ani jewa shuma de la ko khande the mean to go re so da ji ko ra ka mi la mar mar su ma da ke ta ko bhagza the number 7 ka se go ro wa ge shebe bhagza sa ge yuen ro bu sha shin de go na shebe ge yuen de so ro sha shin da yuen de thwa ya yo ma ro ko de sha de go shebe ge ke jo 계제 샤신 되거나 박자대. 마다 디 박자대 쉐베 계제 서르샤는 고저 계제도 고마는 거 샤.
계제서 말이다. 시바라 샤샤서 디 거 주셔 나 이거지. 거 유게 해라 상 좀 좋은 거로.
서 알네 사빙 소리시.
그래서 박자서 사무서 더 좀 좋아라.
So Geshe say it's like planting seeds on our mind. So when other causes and conditions come, so they get activated and then things happen. So it's like planting seeds on the mind, but those are also formless as well. So I said, could we say these are the attributes of the mind? He said, no, you can't say attributes. So I know there must be some technicality. So I couldn't,
So we don't know how they're carried on the mind.
the 박사도 this kind of kid was 제가 지금 좀 캐로단디.
저 박사다 심리 재미 도저 되지 까보는 게 되는 말아. 거긴 자야로 심 가발래 나디 양의 등이 서서 가리야 두고 가지 남도 도고로 봐. 다 콜해지 이게 채서는 이는 거 마시게 돼야 주디 거래.
Then did our chanting with again, and the dear was a party of the Galkin Pink Shores to the one. Pink Shore the Pazas or Shandy and the party in Coparting Guru. The Pink Shore did was Shandy Guna, Jim, because of logic shang the Pazadi. Park Pink Shore on Nago de Yorwa. Park Pink Shore Nago Yorwa. Then the Copinson Nago, then the Copar Yomar, die in a quay, 3 schedule party in Guru.
Yeah. What the laser did it? Could charge you to Thomas Gamma.
Geshe said, these are the words they use. Like we often use the word seeds, the imprints, latencies, right? They are on the mind, always there with the mind. When other causes and conditions interact with them, and then good and bad things happen, right? That's only we experience it.
So how are they on the mind?
Yeah, the same guy 100 years, or you're not. Lela Chero. No. Kumshi search agora. Yeah. Yeah. So Geshe is saying that maybe how about this, like sort of it's like a habit, right, of the mind, that if you are used to thinking positive thoughts most of the time, right? So it's very easy for whenever you think, the positive thought is likely to appear than the negative. If somebody is used to thinking a negative thought a lot, right, then they're more likely to have a negative thought. So that, how you can easily think positive negatively is coming out of that habit, that kind of imprint, right?
So how's that habit carried on the mind?
Huh?
Mind has no form. How is that habit carried on the mind?
Well, it is that's quite a same thing. Just kid go so the quality ya suni yo mare same kind. So it is. right. Niba sange gang ke deyo da. Right. 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 So I don't know if this English translation, but the Niba can be translated as ability or a potency or energy. He said, like wherever we go, right, our body energy is there. So like that, wherever the mind goes, the energy is there. That energy can be good or bad, right? Because we have all those energies in the mind, and then they get activated by different conditions. So that's all. Say. Yeah.
That's still very vague. Excuse me. That's still very vague.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Nobody's pinned it down to what it is yet.
Okay, maybe we will sit over this and see if we can, right? Yeah. What? I said, yeah, I mean, I translate for Geshe, but that's all they are able to say this much right now. So, yeah. That's right, yeah, energy, that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
but energy is matter.
Yeah.
Energy is matter. It's form.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said I want energy.
But isn't it, there is a notion in Tantra that the mind, the subtle mind, is never separate from the very subtle wind.
Yes,
the wind is the form. The
yes.
wind is form, the mind. So there's actually the wind that we can say
Right,
that the wind actually carries.
Right.
There is form there.
Right.
So they're never separate, right?
Right. Ale Quran this nga nga le shebe ina ge ko de kanga thesa marwa sa kan sana manzo dir wa shindo thabe lungsan yin de nyamdo dugo ro wa ge shindo thabe sem dan shindo thabe lung ni de ken da yelme de do de ro wa je de gal shindo thabe ge lung de su ro wa sa ge su de ge ke dugo islam ne ke ga ro re so da bhagja de
la
bhagja de shindo thabe ge lung de ge ke dugo de islam na lung de su ro wa sa ro wa ge nga shu ne shebe ne ro wa ge Shinto Trabe Sem da Shinto Trabe Lung Yor Wage. Mang Shu the Queen Yingo Yemer so that Sucha de Yor was again. That Suk the Tan Paja Shar Slamna and it caught there so dear Lamna Digama West or. Yes, sir. I think you like
Paja said, but some of the damn yard. So said the middle.
Nagan under Wage. Naga Shur Yor Wage. Shinto Trabe Sem Yorwage. Shinto Trabe Lung Yor Wage. When you go Yemer Wage. Jetang Shun the Jeban the Deacon Sur was or Lung Rova, Queen Yemes and the Sur was or Wage. Just Shinto Trabe Digi, Paja Kate with the Suk down Paja Shan, the Kate with the Lavina, Paranzo Cotemero, and Delkin Yor Westborg. Can't sing that.
I got Paja said.
Oh, Shinto Trabe is send the Lung Yor again.
Paja
Kate when the Lung the Kate was Lam Digama Westborg. Not Shun.
Long days, long because so then some then the other.
In a way, what you made of Chipper.
When you made there's some then Digama the long them and they say, you did me to
in a time of question this again, Lung the Source and the same the Sur and Lamne Digo or again.
There's a Digama, same so in the so we come make a go yours to go is the Gamara.
Geshe says, even in that tantric where we said the subtlest mind and the wind, right? You can say the wind is they're always inseparable, but they're of the same nature, but they're not the same, isn't it? The mind is still not a form, right? The wind is of the same nature, but it is not, right? Yeah, wind is a form, right? Right. Right. So Geshe says, how about this, right? Say, do you agree that we have the visual perception to be able to see all kinds of forms, right? Do we have the ability, our visual? No, our eye consciousness has the ability to see all kinds of forms, right? Those forms do not exist on the eye consciousness, right? But yet they're able to see them, you know? The eye consciousness is able to see all kinds of forms, right? But those forms do not exist on the eye consciousness, right?
They're not in the eye?
Right, they're not in the eye, right? But yet they have the ability to see it, right? So what do you call that? Now that is the something similar, right? Potency, or what do you call that?
Couldn't that just be,
Yeah.
couldn't that just be imputed from birth? I mean, maybe a baby doesn't have those stuff preconceptually.
Yeah. So yeah, because they talk was about West Korea. That gets at the true the talk was about the day that was talk was about. Mama could get it Queen Geshe said. Okay, we will continue this, I think. Yeah, the yeah, okay. Any other questions? Do you have a question? Sorry.
We're finished?
No, first we were saying if anybody has, we'll come back to you, right? We don't want to get stuck with one question. If anybody has, you have a question? Yeah. Okay. You have a question, yeah.
So I would like to segue to where you're leaving impressions after passing, if you reincarnate. So today, the teachings talked about delusion and no delusion, right? If you are delusional, then we accumulate karma, is what I heard. If there is no delusion, then there may be indifferent karma that can ripen at any moment. So I understand that from a time when I was delusional, I would be creating karma. But then indifferent karma, if I'm no longer delusional, there may be past karma or karmic residue. So the question is, from where and who caused it? Is it past lives? Is it from my ancestors?
Oh, you mean the karmic residues, you mean?
The karmic residues. Where does it come from? Where does it originate?
Sure.
And if so, how does one clean this up?
Sure, okay. Quran ki condition de disigor da dagi ken le da nyomo ni ge na ne kyawa len ya le di ne ka cha de la ba ge le da nyomo ni ge na ne kyawa len ya nyomo di ne ka cha de re so ba ge nyomo me na le yo be na tha chma le ki mange be le yo re ko mingi o ma la ba ge ta ne Quran ko di ko chwa shu go ba ge ta ko mange be le Quran ran pe cha de ba ge but the Quran ki sam ko do sa da Quran ki sem nyomo maru ba chen chik sem ne da ko di le sa go yo ba sa go ba ge ta ne ko re kyur ya ya le hang ba mang go yi ro sa ba ge
la
ko nyomo ko sam lo ma da ne ko sem kyur le hang ma de yi ro ba ge the hang ma de de khane yung ba re sa kyawang yi ma de jing ga re che sha jo re khare re ro ba ge le hang ma de ge ro ba ge mange be nge kyur le mange be le yo ro ba sa yo hang ma de ge di kyawang yi ma ne che ba re and di yi ba ina di me ba khan de di sang ma khan de so go re sa ro nge ma da be kyawang ma ba kha de che sa be le ro ba ge ta di sang ma khan de so go re so ge
아래 저 장마를 거 다니 니모 강가 방에 거 매래 줘지 이나 거기 지금 이제 레타스 그 장마 속아야 말이 거 너지 두고 말이 가자 다저버도 저 레만 뭐야 니모면 거 야 앞에 주민 말시도
nga ju ju ge le lang ma de ge de kyaw mang bo sa le de ro wa ge di chang ma khan de so go re so da kyaw mang bo nge le sa ro ge sang ye de ni da yam mang sa ro da sui sa yin ko sa ro so da di chang ma khan de so go re so da
장마를 거 상게 매직 사로 유직을 뭐 이제 초직을 내서 지금 장마 소마로
so da 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 chang ma so na so da chung go ro ge da ko da chang ma so ye yo ro so ye no khan de so go re so
서로 다소소소 다다샤 제발 이제 마제바 토마가 시 유지서 아니 그 뒤에 강가 나지 봐서 강가 사왔다 아니 유와세 샤바세 좋은 시바 나지 샤도시는 거 다 그러
Okay, so I'm coming back in two, so just to make sure this answers your questions. The first thing is in the case of the arahats, where we said they may have the karmic remnants, but they do not ripen anymore. So they don't have to worry about purifying them because those karmas become impotent, right? They cannot ripen anymore. But in the case of us, that we may have a lot of karmic remnants from many past lives whenever we did it. But I mean, we may not recall when we did that, right? Many lifetimes before. But in terms of the continuity of the consciousness, it's the same person. That's us, right? So through purification practice, we can purify those karma. Whatever we can recall, remember, we can think about it. Whatever we couldn't recall, we say, I must have done a lot of bad karmas. So through the purification practice, described in the Buddha Dharma, right? If we regret for the wrong things we have done, and then we confess it to the Buddhas and the Sangha, all of those, we can purify those karmas, the remaining ones, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I believe it does, but the follow-up would be the karmic residue or whatever was caused by my ancestors.
Your ancestors are there.
Not previous lives,
Sure,
but
sure,
my
sure.
ancestors.
Right.
Let's say my
Quran di ten de gen kon di yi ji chi ro wa. So gi da pha me ma me sa be le di ro wa ge.
라
Ken ko je mi da kon so ge pha me ma me sa le yi ji chi ro wa ge. Ba pa ame nge ma po mo ka sa be le so ya le di gi chi ka so ko ken ro chi ro wa ge. Pola mola ki sa she be le di ro wa ge. Di sang ma ka so ko
레데
네 간수 상마 써야 말와.
뭐뭐 레드 뭐뭐 그러면 뭐뭐 레사 소소를 미기 지금
미야요 말와. Right. So according to Buddhism, right, you know, we do not experience the results of karmas that our ancestors have created, right? They are responsible for their karmas, you know. And whatever good things they did, it belongs to them. If there are any negative one, they need to purify. We cannot purify for them. They cannot impact us. We are only responsible for, right, our karmas.
뭐뭐 사실 레 소소 뉴스인데 레 마지막 제가 사실 차로 그러지.
Because when we look at what are called the karmic characteristics of the features, right? Such as we said, you know, the positive karmas will definitely produce positive results. Negative will produce negative results. They never get confused with each other, right? And we will not experience the karmas of other people that we have not created, right? Right? And whatever karmas we have created, if you don't purify them, then they can ripen. So those are the what are called essential characteristics of the karma. So in that sense, right, ancestors' karma cannot ripen on us. That's Buddhism's teaching.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're trying to tell me that my grandparents and parents haven't placed any imputations on my mind?
No, their karma is not going to ripen on you. That's what I mean.
Their imprints of their mind are within me. I can feel them.
What do you mean, their imprints? You remember them?
They carry their history, and
yeah, you remember their life story, what they did to you, right? That's not their karma. That's that they raised you, right? You remember
right.
that.
So, but I get imprints from how they raised me.
But that's a different. But that's not the karma. But that's not their karma ripening on you.
Well, if my father beats me every day, isn't that karma ripening on me?
Oh. No, that ripened on him because he beat
No,
you. He
still,
had to
I
pay
ain't
for
getting
that.
the effect, okay?
Oh, no, no. When he beat you, you feel the pain. Is that what you mean?
I'm feeling beaten, okay?
Oh, you mean that one? Oh, that's not called karmic ripening. Yeah, not like that. No.
So you mean his karma is not affecting me because I'm getting the beating?
Oh, okay. Let me check with the Geshe. Okay, that's better, right? Quite days ago again. King Pame leg in Anzoli Mingi Maralarwa, they can't razor. Question of Korea Pave, not in Yada Town, what they led in all Mingi doors or again. That the guest session number of the lady Laguio Malarwa. Pave and all Tundu are not good doors or again. Pave led in all members.
바에 동두서 나사다한테 소송님한테 바와를 가르쳐 주신 뭐 대주는 거로.
In a power quarantine, somebody later, Koran.
그래 바하고 동거야 그런 나가지. 지금 소소 레사를 소소 자를 들에 사면 바에 누구 걸어 말아.
Right. So Geshe is saying that, you know, I mean, if you go deep into Buddhism, right, let's say in the case of your dad beating you, I don't know whether that happened or not, we just make it up, right? It might have. So, you know, it's from Buddhist point of view that whenever it was in some other life or something, you did something to your dad somewhere. So that's why it provoked that, and now he's beating you. It's not right. So that your karma is ripening on you. He's just a condition, right, beating you. Whereas your dad has to pay for the karma of beating you another time. Is that making sense? So he's just a condition. He's not, yeah.
Well, you're just supposing that.
Yeah.
You can't prove it.
Say it again.
You're just supposing that. You can't prove it.
Yeah. That question, the bad karma, this because doom to Marabas or again. The long Yama Savage let me but that what loves EJ your mother, the doom to Marabas or Baba Soso Tumbaina, Yama Papa del Tuza Savage give me but said that EJ your mother, the doom to make a Yamara.
이제 쇼시 막 고도시 되면 그 소소대 레다는 마사네 바에 동우나 레 마시 바쳐서 퇴로라.
You know, the test was the Gogyu Chadel Lam de Groge.
고교대 이 말이야.
Yeah, because this is where we talk about how, I mean, this is an example of a concealed reality phenomenon, right? And so it can only be proven by the words of the Buddha teaching, right? We cannot show it through the proof like that. I mean, because if we go by the Buddha's teaching, the spirit of it, right? If we have never created a cause to be beaten, it should not happen because that's against the law of karma, right? Whatever good thing happened to you, bad thing happened to you, sort of did something for that. If you didn't do it, if something happens to you, then that's against the law of karma. You know, that's what he said.
A few online questions.
Okay, with that, and then we'll call up today.
One is the Bardo body formless?
Is the Bardo formless?
Is the Bardo body formless?
Okay. Bardo lüdi ki ene sume rebes again.
라,
Because tajet on it to what on again. Bardo lüje rowa. Bardo lüdi sume rebes or is.
벌써도 숨이 말이야. 벌써 속에 속차 이거.
The form in the Bardo is not formless, it's a subtle form.
The second question is the alaya consciousness where these potencies and imprints are stored?
그래서 어떤다 레기 박자 샤사에 대 강가로 군시 대할 샤고를 배서 그러게.
야,
박자 샤사 세게 남세 지어로와. 디 군시 세 지어로와게. 군시 남세 대한테 박자 대 샤고를 배서게.
뭐 군시는 저면도 다 나서 계셔 뭐 가지 이게 남아셔서 네가 저걸 다 그지.
So I mean the schools where they talk about Alayan Vijnan or the storehouse consciousness, they said that's where imprints are deposited on. But other schools where they don't accept the Alayan Vijnan storehouse consciousness, so it's deposited on our mental continuum, mental consciousness. The Namshe Gangliya Paza Shaga Segde Tinju Bachigore Shambayores.
야,
Namshe and the Paza Shaya Segde Tinju Lugrawas.
뭐야, 다 남시 샤사한테 tenjo도 말이야. 남시 샤사한테 됐어요. 그제 런지 메시 tenjo하고 나선 샤세요.
The one who says, like for example, one example of the karmic imprints are deposited on the mental consciousness, for example, would be Sevatantaka Madhyamika, right? Prasangika is a little different. Prasangika will talk about how imprints are deposited on that merely labeled I or the person, you know. So it's a little different. Oh, sorry. No.
What imprints riding around on our wind horses until they disappear or mutate or are resolved?
Say it again.
Are the thought imprints riding around on our wind horses until they either mutate or disappear or are resolved?
I did not understand completely. Somebody need to translate it for me. So are the imprints, like that's a metaphor. I did not. It's my imprint.
Around on our wind horses,
Yes.
Lungta.
ripen or are resolved.
What has the wind horse got to do with it? Sorry.
I think you said
okay,
that.
well, Geshe will have. Okay.
Yeah.
Gain Shido. But the wind horse did the Lungta did Tajorda. Hello. Hello. Ale 박자 di lungi 가서 게 샘디 lungi 요거여서 박자 di 파 캐로에 lungi 파 체드고 라고 서와
라,
샘 용한테 룽로 와게 제가 다시 샘디 개와징의 파 저를 요대인데 룽로 와 그래서 아니 박자 di 파 개와징 저대 lungi 파 대두고 그래서 그게
그 롱테스. 다 그걸 내가 저 롱 연구단 그랬어요.
이제 박자 di lungi 파 대르게 라이게 제 요마로다
나 벌써 대에서 내가 계속 가요. 다 대에서 지금 다 가르치다 양해등 가르치는 걸 가서 초라면서 주자 명하죠. 레사시오로.
Yeah, Geshe, I think Geshe is not getting it. He said, yeah, we don't really in any way talk about like a wind kind of pushing or carrying the imprints into, the next rebirth or something like that. But it's carried on the mind or the consciousness.
There forever, or does it
What the
Fade-
baksa, you mean?
the imprint? Does it
Hello,
fade
okay.
away, or does it
Sure.
die, or what?
Hello, yeah. 박사 되게 지시 남내 대되고 그래 매번 차르고 그래 가르치고 그래서
나
박사 되게 지시 남내 대되고 그래 매번 차르고 그래 가르치고 그래서
뭐다 바자 그런 주민 주스 조르 메샤자야로. 양 주민마다 그 니와도 샤
Yeah, I think imprints depends. Like those imprints which are activated and ripened, like once they are ripened, then they are no more there, right? And then maybe new imprints are deposited. So it's not like they stay there forever. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, and we will continue next week. I yield back to Geshe for prayer requests.
Couple of reminders before we read the prayer requests. This upcoming Saturday, or next Saturday, March 28th, is a talk offering. The next talk is next Saturday. And then this upcoming Wednesday, for those of you who participate in Wednesday night classes, even though we've have gone through the root verses and the commentary of the Foundation of All Good Qualities via Geshe, or the late Geshe's commentary, there's a small section at the end, question and answer section, that we thought would be beneficial to go through, and that would open up the opportunity for further discussion and interaction on the points that were covered in the main body of the text. So we'll be going through that this upcoming Wednesday, and then we'll update you on how we proceed after that in the following weeks. Prayer requests today. Mr. Chan Ding Sarva Khasi Tari Chindasume Tari Chongala any Chongsha Loki Keji Kangarisha. That in Shuzagiru Kungi Ama Chidwani Mutunen Tumenaro Nas Khasi Lojala Chongurba. Then Bill Stevens Shantideva. Bill Stevens Khazin Chinda Sumbe Tari Khaza Chinda Nibe Tari Sumla Chong Tudu Lo Keju Khaza Kubju Kuni Re Sarva Ani Sani the Shewuki Sarva Ani Bill Stevens Shewuki Sani Koran Chinda Tumen Aranas Tadine Chuzo Giru Tanda di Nagi Rwa Nagi Chuzo di Khazan Chong the Tsenlia Tau Du Quing Sarva Ani Khazan Chonchet Lo Dunju Tungel Rwa what's it deba the shit that the net said on Demba Sue Ajax Lewis get you I need motor to Menara Nas Khazin did you shoot some the Konde Moda Tangelani Chimnangi Tribjungi Kembe any Moda Tamnani go shoot him Tabras and Mangan Yorsun Kanjo try down and it you again to Menara Nas the Dene shows a European Gishimi a Miramar than the Neverisha. I need a she's and Rojan to the 2 minutes. That in a choose a Giru, both and Tricha crowns to promote racial gain. Chinda Shibet, Damshula, and in Shaju Shushima Chamberstein Resig, the Saraj of the Nisha, the Lebakans, Lebakans Shaju Resha, which in Shaju la Lamling actually to me not a nas. The dinner Chuzo Giru Bartholomew McDowell Sarva Tanda Neva Resha was a chiller, you have a man lunch in the Teshani, Kongi Chudo, Nishi Sindra actually to me not a nas. The dinner Chuzo Giru Kung Dante Mushimada Pinja doing a one more any never one much the 2 minutes any marine vu should the tumen hours nas niga never sha one more time rinfu. Prayer requests today for those who have recently passed include prayers for Mr. Jun Ding, who passed away on March 15th at the age of 85. Prayers for Bui Thi Dung, or continued prayers for Bui Thi Dung, who passed away at the age of 100 recently. Prayers requested for Bill Stevens, who passed away on February 3rd, aged 92. Tomorrow is Bill Stevens' 49th day of passing, so please keep Bill Stevens in your prayers and dedications. And the prayers also for Tao Du Huing, who passed away yesterday, aged 78. Along with the individuals whose names I just read, may all of those who have recently passed be free of all suffering and purified of all negative karma accumulated since beginningless times. May they be reborn with all precious freedoms and endowments. May they meet the Dharma and a qualified guru and quickly achieve liberation and enlightenment. Prayers requested for those who are still with us include prayers for Sue I.X. Lewis, who experienced a stroke while driving and was in an accident and has suffered a major head injury, who's currently in the hospital. So please keep Sue in your prayers. Miramar, Pam's cat, very sick at the moment, so please keep Miramar in your prayers and dedications as well. Rachel Kane, prayers are requested for Rachel Kane, who will undergo major surgery at the end of April. So please keep Rachel in your thoughts and prayers. Prayers also requested for Bartholomew McDowell, who is in physical rehab. So prayers for Bartholomew's quick and full recovery. Prayers for Wamo, who is experiencing health issues. And then prayers also for Maureen Vu, who is also suffering from health issues. So along with the individuals whose names I just read, may those who are still with us be free, and all sentient beings, be free from all obstacles, hardship, and negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled. May they be guided by the blessings of the three jewels, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness.
So we will do salutation and recitation and dedication of Arya Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of Compassion, for the deceased, followed by salutation, recitation, and dedication of healing Buddha for those who need healing. So I think you must have double-sided one page somewhere there with you. Chadong Golun Yuren Jabon Don Jendong Gewa Sangbe Sangye Don Kala Kandi Tela Tedem Jumba Jere Sela Changzen De Omani Peme Omani Peme Peme Omani Peme. Omanim beme hore ngewa di nyodo da jere sewan rujo ne dowa chijam te salon ge ma sho toje gola nyombe jomden de zenzan tebe nyendu donge dozo ne ze sanje menjin Yola Janze Lo Om Namo Bhagavate Begaze Guru Bindriya Tabaranzaya Tadangadaya Arahate Samya Sambudaya Teyata Om Begaze Begaze Ma Begaze Bega Raja Samugadaya Soha Teyata Om Begaze Begaze Ma Begaze Begaze Raja Samugadaya Page 3. Lord Jiazi Wu Bega De Gensan Pong Wei Ju Do Min Ba Xin Den Ban Zin La Wang Do Ji Chu Ben Tang Yin Chu Gun Ju So Wan De Page 5. Ma Wang Da Men Gun Yin Do Wan De Gang Lin Zhong So Yin Da Se Ze Ba Jiang Gun Jia Wa Ni Wa Ya Se Zhang Sun Din Zi Ma Wei Xi Ba Tenzin Dorjee Jin Guo Ze Wei Jie Xie Jie Ni Gun Chang Ju Den Lu Long Do Tam Jue Bei Yue Bei Yun Jie Du Jia Jia Zhe Wen Do Xiao De Te Sang Kong Da Che Zhe Zong Bei Ze Yong Zo Yu Re Tu Bei Nya Ge Long Ri De Yin Nu Bu Bei De Tu Den Gang Li Da Gu Xiao Den Shu Dong Nang Kong Men Ze Ba Nam Da Gu Den Dang Du Wei Pen De Ju Wei Dun Zhu Ju Mi Che Wei Tun Le Ji Ge Sang Du Jie Dun Do Xiao Den Chi Zhi Lang Men Tu Jie Me Lang Da Ge Sang Du Jie Den Dam Zang Men Du Chou Zong Du Du Jie Da Men Ben Dun Gu Lun Du Shu Page 9. Ram Zhang Xin Ge Gong Bo Se Ba Men Zu Do Nam Jie Jie Yun Zhe Ma Shu Chou Zhu Zhe Ye La Zhu Tam Jie Da Den Mi Xi Chou Ge Ngu Zhu Zi Tu Den Jie Dang Lo San Jia Wa Xi Zhu Den Ban Zhen Bei Bei Yun Jie Ta Dun Du Jie Yong Gui Xin Yin Yang Du Nin Jie Wong Bo So Wan Den Ji Den Sum Gun Chang Na Ben Mi Den Bian Za Wa So So Ta Wa Ye Nang Da Sui Jin Yang Da Wang Ba Lo San Yin Den Ben Du Xiao Den Shu Tu Zhong Jia Jin Nun Zi Yang Bei Xi Sang Zhu Nam Zhi Sang Jin Zhen Bei Gong Zhong Xi La Song Zhu De Bu De Den Bian Nga Da Chen Bo Xiao Den Che Bei Dong Wang Guo Wang Bo Zhuo De Zhen Bei Ri Lang Si Yu Bu Zhu Zhen Bei Dun Den Li Xie Zhang Zhou Zhu Ki Zhu Xin Yin Chen Bo Xiao Den Ke Bei Lang Du Gu Xie Zhe Da Jie Zhen Bei Ta Ra Nie Zuo Rong Sang Bin Du Jie Li Gong Yi Xie Nong Sum Den Xin Yin Chen Bo Xiao Den Te Sang Zhu Lan Zhe Bei Den Jie Jie Mian Zhu Ta Ju Zang Men Zi Lam Jian Zi Din Den Ju Bei Xia Hua Zhen Den Xin Yin Chen Bo Xiao Den Shou Zhong Jia Wa Se Jie Qi La Da Dun Den Tam Jian Song Men Cuan La Jie Da Zha La Sam Da Ben Ben Dun Gu Lun Du Shu Chang Zhu Sim Zhu Ren Bo Jie Ma Jie Ba Nan Yi Ju Jie Wa Nian Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Pe Wa Shu Dong Ni Da Wa Ren Bo Jie Ma Jie Ba Nan Yi Ju Jie Wa Nian Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Pe Wa Shu Sa Xi Bi Ji Ju Xi Me Do Zhang Re Ra Lin Xie Nin De Yin Ba De Sang Jie Zhu Wen Nang Da Xin La Ju Ba Shu Kang Ri Ra Wei Guo Wei Xin Gam Su Pen Da De Wa Ma Lui Zhu Jie Re Si Wang Tenzin Dorjee Ye Xia Bei Si Den Ju Ji Yi Dang Gu Ru Ran Na Man De Ni Yang Da Ya Min Ye Wa Gun Do Yang Da La Man Da Zhe Men Xue Ye Be La Nam Jie Yun De Ra Zo Nen Do Ji Shang Ge Guo Ba Niu Do Zhu